Well, so I think we'll call this meeting to order, and hopefully another one or two of our members will arrive here. It's a couple minutes after 7 p.m. on April the, what's tonight?
16th.
April the 16th. And this is a meeting of the Bicyclist and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. So we will begin with a roll call from our new clerk, Fami, who's here to take minutes and keep us on task.
All right. Brandon Bowersox Johnson.
Present.
Gary Zico. Michelle Guerra. Audrey Ishii. Amelia Neptune.
Present.
Susan Jones.
Here.
Nadine Schmitz.
Here.
Cynthia Hoyle. Brad Bennett.
Okay, so that is definitely a quorum, and hopefully we'll have one or two members arriving soon. I know a few people are out at the APA conference, and Michelle also said she couldn't be here tonight. So let's start with an approval of the agenda. We have quite a number of business items. If someone wants to make a motion to approve the agenda as distributed. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that carries. We will proceed as planned. And we also had minutes distributed from our February meeting. I hope people got a chance to look them over. Were there any corrections or questions about them? Okay. Does someone want to make a motion to approve the February minutes from February 19th? Okay, a motion by Brad. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, very good. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. And we have a public input time slot. If anybody here who came to the meeting wanted to speak to the commission tonight. Okay, no. Then let's move on to some of our business items. The first under old business, item A, is an update on the bike master plan process. Brad?
Yeah, and I'll give a quick report. I'll try to keep it brief on this. But we are moving forward. We incorporated all of the ideas we had gotten from the BPAC members. Rebecca and I have been working on it. Rebecca is actually going to take the lead on kind of running the master plan. We will be hiring the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission to do the work. We've got a contract from them. We've finished, approved the final scope. So probably the next step will be doing a budget amendment with council, because unfortunately we didn't get a budget line item created for it this year. But we'll be hopefully moving forward on that sometime in May or June and get that contract done, and they'll get started. The group that's doing it anticipates to probably take about 12 months to complete. So, and we are including a bike and pedestrian survey as part of it. What they'll be sending out, it's a mail form. I have some additional information on it if anyone's interested. There's a article that was written about it, but they're using kind of a international model survey that was developed, that's supposed to be, really good at capturing for a community what your actual bike and ped participation rates are or utilization rates are. And it will be a mail-out survey that's sent out to random homes to try to get a representative sample. So we've got some exciting stuff in the works there.
That's great. Any questions for Brad about that process? Brad, could you describe a little more what the public input steps will be? I know last time around the big effort and the thing that went so well was that we had the huge public meeting at the middle school, and we got people from all neighborhoods to come and look at maps and draw their favorite streets or the safest routes that they use on the maps. And we got a turnout of almost 100 people, and that really gave us a lot of good data and input that drove the rest of the process. So I think commission members would love to help invite their neighbors and spread the word about that event when we know it's happening, and probably when people are back in the fall would be better, when people are back after their August vacations and whatnot. But do you have a sense of public input and when in the timeline that might come? And
yeah, in fact, I can give that to you.
Okay.
There are 2 public meetings scheduled as part of the master plan update. The first one occurs under task 5, and that comes kind of after the goals and objectives are done, the existing conditions evaluation, and the travel demand analysis. Specifically, it says that they'll conduct a This is public meeting number 1. They'll conduct a meeting to solicit input on current issues and needs related to bicycling in Urbana, as well as important origin-destination travel pairs. CCRPC staff will additionally reach out to the community leaders and the public in low-income and or disadvantaged neighborhoods to determine their needs. And I know we did include kind of an expanded effort, particularly getting out to the lower-income neighborhoods and soliciting their input.
Okay.
And then the second public meeting is under Task 7, which kind of comes after a lot of the bicycle enhancements, land use strategies, design standards, education encouragement, and enforcement strategies, and proposed systems after those parts are complete. And the second meeting specifically is to conduct a second public meeting to solicit input on the draft map and recommendations of the City of Urbana Bicycle Master Plan.
Okay.
And of course, at the end of it, I mean, there'll be presentations to the council and an additional chance for public input through that venue.
Okay, great. Any other questions on that? Okay. The next item of business tonight then is the Boneyard Creek Improvement Project update.
Yeah, I'll just give a brief update on that. They've demolished the Ray Street Bridge, so Ray Street is now closed through traffic between Maine and University. It'll probably be closed through the middle of June. They're hopeful to have the new bridge complete by then. At that point, we'll open Ray Street back up. They're also simultaneously working on Broadway Avenue. They start on the west side with the sidewalk and curb improvements. If you are going through the area, I encourage you to notice the much expanded sidewalks. Most of the sidewalks now are over 6 feet, some of them going out to 8 feet. So it will be much more pedestrian friendly, and you can see where we've moved the curbs out. That work on Broadway Avenue, they're going down the west side now. When that's complete, they'll jump over to the east side. We'll keep it open to two-way traffic at all time. Same time frame around the end of June. We're hopeful to have that all complete. And then at that point, when they open Ray Street back up, they'll probably close Broadway Avenue, do the resurfacing, restripe the bike, or do the striping for the bike lanes and the vehicular lanes. And at that point, it should be open to traffic. The landscape improvements along it probably won't come until fall or even possibly spring of next year.
Any questions about the Boneyard project? Okay, then we'll move on to the next update on the Washington Street resurfacing.
Yes, on this one, once again, it's under construction. They've been working on primarily the curb work and the sidewalk improvements. They're not going to do any resurfacing till after the marathon. That obviously is along the marathon route, so they don't want to disturb the pavement at all until after the marathon. But it is proceeding. It's anticipated for completion this summer, and that'll include bike lanes, all the way from Philo to its end over on the east end of Urbana.
Great, and I know we'd looked at plans for that here. Some
Yeah, in
number of
fact,
months
I
ago.
think Craig Schonkweiler, our senior civil engineer, came in and did a presentation about that.
Okay, then the last project update is the Lenore Adams Fairlawn multi-use path.
Yeah, this one is once again also under construction. Unfortunately, the weather hasn't been cooperating with us on any of these projects, particularly this one. They do have the pathway has been installed, the 8-foot wide. If you're out in the area, take a look at it. It turned out really nice. The improvements we have left are the lighting, which unfortunately until the ground dries up, we're not going to be able to get in and install those solar-powered LED pedestrian lighting fixtures and poles. But once we get dry here, hopefully maybe next week, we'll get the light poles in, and then we still have some landscaping left on it. With the landscape, we might have to wait till June to get done on it.
Okay, and when I assume you'll notify everybody here. I know there was talk of a grand opening party or some sort of event or celebration with the neighborhood because that's such a critical connection. So, okay, great. I know maybe that'll be off cycle of when our meetings are, but if you let us all know by email, I think that'd be good. Any other questions on that project? Okay, so let's get to new business. There is a topic for the safe route to school, bike facilities, the lanes, the shared bike parking lanes, bike routes, and bike racks. And you had some documents for us to review. So, Brad, do you want to walk us through
Yeah,
this project?
let me start out. I'll give a little bit of background before I head up to the computer to show the plans. This is a project the city actually applied for back in 2010. It is 100% grant, so the city doesn't have to, front any money or have any money involved with it. We did receive $199,000, and I guess this is credit to Jennifer's great application that we were able to win that amount. But it included money for putting in bike lanes, bike routes, and bike racks around the different elementary, middle school, and high school, here in Urbana, in order to encourage both students and, parents and staff at the schools to utilize, bicycles as a mode of transportation to get to and from the school. Additionally, it obviously helps out our entire bicycle infrastructure system here in the city as for, providing important points of connection. As far as the bike lanes go, we're getting bike lanes on Florida all the way from, Ray Street over to Kinch. We're getting bike lanes on Kinch between Florida and Washington Street, and then a short stretch up on Fairview from Goodwin to Lincoln by that elementary school up there. So I'll run through the plans. The bike routes, I'll show you a plan sheet. I mean, there's quite a bit of bike lane or bike routes going in. Remember, bike routes are primarily just signage, whereas the bike lanes is the actual on-street markings. And then at a lot of the school locations, and I'll show those locations on the plan or on the drawings, you will be installing additional bike rack facilities, the inverted U that we're also familiar with. So it is I think a great project, and will significantly make us a more bike-friendly community with all the additional infrastructure we're adding. So with that, let me just walk you through. I do have paper plans if anyone's interested after the meeting, if you want to sit down and look through them. They are on the website too, so you can take a look at them. Unfortunately, IDOT does not allow us to use color aerial photography in these prints, so I apologize for the lack of way.
That's wild.
And I'll just kind of go through these quickly. If anyone has specifics, I don't want to necessarily drone on for hours about each one of these, but
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can just stop you along the way if there's any questions or comments.
The first set of plans I'm going to go
actually, before you dive in, just to remind people, this is already out to bid. So this isn't one of those projects where we're asking so much for ideas of, change this, let's do a different street here. But any kind of final questions about what's going to happen are totally appropriate. And I know sometimes questions lead to conversation where you say, that's a slight change we could make out in the field or something, like move this sign 10 feet down. But, some very tiny changes could be made at this point. But so go right ahead.
Okay, this first set of plans are just for the bike lanes, and I'll just point out real quickly, see if I can zoom in a little bit, make this a little clearer. How do we do that? This is just kind of location map. I just want to point out where some of the stuff is. So this is the bike lanes that are along Florida Avenue from Ray Street all the way over to Kinch. It's a real important east-west connector for us, for bike infrastructure. And then you've also got the important Kent Street corridor, and this is of particular significance because it connects, the bike lanes on Washington Street that run east-west with the ones that run on Florida Avenue. So that is a real important connection. We also have two kind of new bike infrastructure items, and the first one is here on Pennsylvania, and these are shared bike parking lanes. It'll be marked as an 8-foot wide lane. There is no bike symbol in it. It's just striped as a lane. There will be bike route signs installed as part of it, so people have an indication that, it is a shared lane to be used by both bikes and any, cars parked there. The idea behind it would be, it's such a low volume of on-street parking there that bicyclists can normally use that lane. If there happens to be a vehicle parked there, they can move out to the travel lane till they pass the parked vehicle and then get back into that shared lane. If I can scroll down.
Is there anything, how's the intersection at Florida and Vine?
And I'll show you. We've
Okay.
got a blow up that
Okay,
shows
cool.
specifically. And you'll notice on some of the, particularly the higher volume intersections, a lot of times we go to Sharrows through the intersection, and I'll show that to you. I'll point out we do have one other shared bike parking lane, and that's here on Anderson Street for this stretch. Now north of here, it just becomes a bike route. But for this section south of Florida, it will be a shared bike parking lane. And I'll show you one more. And this is that little section of bike lane that we talked about up on Fairview Avenue. So I'm going to zoom back out a little bit. You know, these are our standard symbols as far as the Sharrows and the bike lanes. Like I said, I apologize. These are all black and white images, but they are a IDOT requirement. You can see, and I'll zoom in a little bit because it is hard to see these. So bear with me. So this is Race Street. You know, this would be the start of the Florida Avenue. And like I said, on a lot of these intersections, you'll notice we go to Sharrows through the intersection because of the right turn lanes and the left turn lanes. A lot of times there isn't adequate space to fit the bike lanes in. So you can see we start out at Sharrows at the intersection, and as we move our way eastward, eventually we get to a point where we have enough pavement width to work in the bike lanes. Go down. Let's see, I'll show you the Vine section here. Oops. And this is a typical cross section over here, you know, through that area. So you see we have a 11-foot wide vehicular lanes with the 5-foot wide bike lanes. And some people have asked why we don't go with a 10-foot lane through here. One of the reasons for that is Florida Avenue does receive a lot of bus traffic. So I know, talking to the Mass Transit District, they do appreciate the 11-foot wide lanes. See if I can scoot back this way. So this is the Vine Street intersection. Once again, we're going to Sharrows through the intersection. And you can see we taper back up, and as we work our way east, we do get back into the bike lanes. This will be working our way east. And you can see in this section, we've actually got enough pavement width where we can go with 12-foot wide lanes with, you know, 5-foot wide bike lanes, excluding the curb pan there. So that is one section where we do have some wide enough pavement to really do it right. This would just be continuing. You've got Grove Street, Anderson. One of the things I'll point out that we did do on this that we've kind of learned from past practices, you notice the lengths of the dash lines have increased. Before we were going with like a 50-foot long dash line, and we've bumped it up to over 100 feet, so we've doubled that distance. Hopefully that'll encourage motorists to not be afraid to get over and merge with the bike lane or with the bicyclists when making those right-hand turns, as opposed to right now you see some of them that don't try to make that right-hand turn till they practically get up to the intersection.
And it's more natural for the biker too.
Yeah.
Ease out.
Once again, you can see through this particular section, you know, we've got the 12-foot wide vehicle lanes, which I said is nice. It can accommodate the buses. You've also got the 5-foot wide bike lanes, and here along the north side, we've got an 8-foot wide parking lane. And you can see on these, we've also got quite a bit of signage. The little placards with the numbers in it and with the little squares below, those indicate signage. If you go over to kind of the left-hand side of the page, you can see these match up with the numbers. You know, so 4 is a no parking this side of street sign. And I apologize. The parking's actually on the south side. It's the north side that we eliminated the parking on. But and this is just continuing east. You can see that's through the Cottage Grove intersection, so we're approaching Philo Road. And scroll down a little bit. Oops. I think I scrolled a little too much. Go back one more. Sorry about that. There we go. This would be the Philo Road intersection. I'll point out too that we're doing a separate project to that'll be improving the traffic signals at the intersection.
How are they being improved?
We're going to totally replace the traffic signals at the intersection. It will allow us an opportunity to because remember when the old traffic signals are based on, 4 lanes on Florida and 4 lanes on Philo. We've done the road diet already on Philo and narrowed it down to 2 lanes in the bike lanes, and we'll now be doing the same thing on Florida. So it does provide us an opportunity to get everything realigned. We're also going to be able to put in video detection for the traffic signals, so we'll actually be able to pick up bikes. We won't have to, allow on or rely on detector loops. So that will be a nice feature. Now for the pedestrians, we're going to stick, even though with the video detection, we could, do the pedestrian crossings with that. We're going to stick with the push button signals, that we have, the acquisition that we have, because that's what the people are familiar with and used to and understand. So, and we don't want to change anything on them and confuse them. So, we'll for the pedestrian, it'll pretty much stay the same. But for the bicyclists, we hope to see improvement going with this. And it is an infrared video detection system, so it can supposedly see under, foggy conditions, under snowy conditions, rainy conditions, which has been typically problematic for, standard or typical video detection. It has problems seeing images under those conditions, but with this infrared technology they have now, it's supposed to be a huge improvement. So this is what it looks like going through the intersection. And we are preserving the parking on the north side of Florida Avenue for the Florida House residents. And we've worked with the Mass Transit District to make sure we accommodated their needs for the bus stop up here. So, scroll down a little bit. And once again, on all these sheets, it shows the cross section going through there. So 12-foot wide vehicular lanes with 5-foot wide bike lanes, and then you've got really an 8-foot wide parking lane because you've got 24 inches of gutter pan that the vehicles can park in. And this would be just continuing east of the Florida Avenue, or I'm sorry, the Florida and Philo intersection. So you got Adams Street. And this is where you get into a section where there is no parking along the north side of the street. You can see we are preserving parking along the south side of the street through here. This would be going through the James Cherry intersection. Curtis Drive intersection. Through the roadledge. Once again, you can see here we're actually able to go with a little bit wider bike lanes. So we're going out to a 6-foot. And this would be going up through the Kinch intersection. So you can see we are adding a left turn lane over by the Kinch intersection. We've got our bike lanes. We're also doing some sidewalk work back here to extend the multi-use path. I guess I'll go back one and show that. One of the things I want to point out, we do transition over to the multi-use path. So here over at the Rutledge Drive intersection, if you're a bicyclist headed east, at this point you would actually transition off the road, off the bike lane, and get onto the multi-use path if you wanted to take that going east. We do have a Sharrow for people that are going up to Kinch and turning to go north on Kinch. So they could stay on the road. They would just have to share the road with with automobile traffic.
But that's good because it tells people
Mhm.
that's legit.
Mhm.
Yeah,
There's
both
not this-
options.
There's not this implication that, what are you doing still over there?
Mm-hmm.
And what's that other spur of the multi-use path? That sort of second entranceway from the multi-use path to the street, yeah.
Well, I think that's
Where
just,
you're going.
I think that's, yeah, to
Okay.
accommodate people
Heading north.
either on the east or west side of Rutledge.
Okay,
You know, if someone wanted to go up Rutledge, they would
Okay.
have that option.
And how wide is the path?
I believe it's 8 foot wide. I think the next one here is Kench. Yep. So these are the Kench Street bike lanes, and this starts down at Florida Avenue. So Florida Avenue would be right here. You can see we've got the bike lanes on both sides. Through this particular section, due to a reduced width, we cannot accommodate parking. You can see up here, the street pavement widens out enough where then we can start working in on-street parking. We are, for the most part, where we can, providing on-street parking on the east side of Kench. But this particular section was constructed of such a narrow cross-section that we had to remove, on-street parking. And this would be going up through Vermont. Like I said, you can see here there's enough width where we can have parking along the east side here, so you've got your bike lane and you've got your parking. Up through Pennsylvania. Once again, in this particular section, the pavement narrows significantly, so once again we're back down to having bike lanes, on both sides, but with no parking. Oops. One too many. I guess I'll show you a typical cross-section too. Kench, because it doesn't have the bus traffic, we are able to go with a 10-foot wide vehicular lane and then get in our bike lanes, our 5-foot wide bike lanes. And this is through the narrow section. So hopefully with, reducing the vehicular lane down to 10 foot, we're hopeful to see some reduction in speeds through the area. Like I said, this would be proceeding going north. You've got, through the Michigan Avenue, through Country Squire. You got through Rainbow View Drive, Lantern Hill Drive. And you can see this is in a little wider section, so once again you have the 10-foot wide vehicle lanes, 5-foot wide bike lanes, and 8-foot parking lane on the east side. This would be going all the way up to Washington. At this point it would meet the Washington street bike lanes.
Is there, at that last intersection at Washington, is there also sort of a sidewalk on-ramp, off-ramp issue? Like, do we expect people to, I don't know, do we expect people to, does the sidewalk at the top right of this picture, is that the main sidewalk you would take if you're trying to get into Prairie School? Or
Well, this is their driveway entrance
if
right
you're
here.
if you're biking to Prairie School, maybe you would just use the driveway,
That's
the
I think,
vehicle
what we
entrance to the
anticipated
school.
Or would envision using.
Okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't
Just-
want to be cutting over the left.
Right.
on that. You would wanna-
Okay. I'm just trying to think if we have any odd transitions there as people, kids who might be biking on the sidewalk or something, leaving school, and how they're going to get on the street and get going the right way. But I think if they use the driveway,
Mhm.
that may be the safest. Okay.
And then this is that shared bike parking lane that we talked about on Anderson. So you've got, this is an 8-foot wide lane. And like I said, it's a shared lane, so cars can park there. We're You know, I mean, you see based on the aerial photography here, it's not a highly utilized on-street parking. But there will be signage to indicate that it is a bike route, but it's not like, you know, typical bike lanes. You know, it's obviously wider because it can accommodate parked vehicles, and there isn't, you know, the actual bike symbol installed down on the pavement. But this is kind of what it looks like. And they are putting centerline striping on that street, you know, because of having the having the lanes. I think there's a cross section down here I can show you. So this is, you know, what a typical cross section looks. So the vehicular lanes through here are 11 foot 6 inches, and then you've got the 8 foot wide bike parking lane going through there. And this would just be continuing on through Brighton. Through Colorado. Through Brookwood. Through Sunnycrest. This would be those shared bike parking lanes on Pennsylvania Avenue, starting over at Vine Street. You see those are 12 foot wide vehicular lane with 8 foot wide shared bike parking lanes. And you see we go over here to Anderson Street and terminate at Anderson Street.
And Amelia, you had that question about that intersection. Was it maybe Pennsylvania and Vine? Okay. Did we see enough there? Oh, okay. The Florida one was the question. Okay, great.
And this is the last bike lane. This is that section on Fairview between Goodwin Avenue and Lincoln Avenue in front of the King School. So you see we start over at Goodwin. We've got our bike lanes. And we proceed east over to Lincoln. Oops. We do eliminate most of the on-street parking in this stretch as well. You see we got 10 foot wide lanes with the 5 foot wide bike lanes through there. And this would be approaching the Lincoln Avenue intersection. So once again, we go to Sharrows before we actually get to the intersection. And that covers the bike lane stuff. The other stuff I'll go through here real quickly. Where's my storage? I'll just show you really briefly the, if I can find them here, the bike rack facilities, and I'll show you the bike rack facilities real quick. So these are where we're putting these different bike racks. So this, for example, this is the middle school. So you can see over here we'll be installing, you know, new bike racks, including a new pad. Down here, I think the Aquatic Center is over here. So you can see we're installing 8 U racks, you know, on existing concrete pads. I can't remember if we had another one on this one. Zoom in a little bit. And you see this is Wiley over here. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit more. You see we're removing some existing comb racks, the outdated racks, and we're installing a new pad with 4 new U racks down on this end of the school. And all this work will be actually done by public works staff. the grant is paying for their labor and the materials for it, but we'll actually have our crews be installing all the bike route signage and the bike racks themselves. The striping will actually be bid out for the bike lanes. That'll actually be bid out, and there'll be a contractor that comes in and do it. And here shows the Yankee Ridge. So we've got, once again, some existing comb racks that we're removing and installing the inverted U racks in their place. This would be over at Prairie, which I think is mostly the removal of some, and then Thomas Payne installing some bike racks there. Let me zoom out. And these are incredibly hard to read. A good way to present the bike routes. I think we've shared the signs from, the grant application, and you're not going to be. I can't zoom in enough for you to see, but I mean, this is how engineers lay out, signage. So, we've got a massive amount of bike routes going in, and you can see this actually goes through, and once again, these are keyed into number systems, so you can actually look up and see what type of sign goes where and what type of post it's mounted on. So I don't know if we want to go into too much detail with these. These are all bike routes that were approved, as part of the master plan. So,
Can you explain in general what the bike route signage is? Does it just say bike route, or is it a bike may use full
well, yeah,
lane?
we'll take a look at
on these typical bike route sections, what is the standard?
Yeah, let me go up a couple. Here you can see the signage over here. Let me zoom in. So you can see some of the typical signs that
Okay.
they're using. And remember, with the bike routes, a lot of it is directional signage, is to show you which way the route goes or where other routes are connecting into it. So, obviously you're going to have a lot of bike route signs. We do have some bike lane signs on some of the, obviously on the bike lanes, we're going to put up bike lane signs. And, a lot of it ends up being directional arrow sign to show you which way the bike route is going or where the interconnecting bike routes come in.
And is there any wayfinding in this Safe Routes to School phase?
No, there is not.
Okay.
Though it would not be too difficult, for Public Works to, add signs at a later point in time. I think particularly as the network expands and we start having, where you could do more destination-based, travel. And that's something we probably need some feedback. And it might be something that we focus maybe a little bit more on in this next master plan, is coming up with,
Yeah.
what are those destinations, that we want to advertise. And it might just be on selected bike routes. It might not be every bike route needs to have a destination sign at every post. So, but yeah, that's something I anticipate will get integrated in. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, in the grant, the only signage really is, the bike route signs themselves, and then directional signs indicate which way they're running.
No, this is a great start. Any questions about all this? Comments?
It'll be a
Yeah.
busy summer for sure.
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things I've heard about still is education, helping motorists and cyclists learn how to use these streets. And so what is the typical, I mean, I know in a project like this, I assume you'd have one kind of public meeting or something that you send a mailing or invite the neighbors or the people along the routes to come to, where they could see pictures of what was going to be done. But other than a public information meeting, are there any opportunities where we can either give out the URL of the training video that we created, or or even do a media event, and when some of these get installed or closer to the start of the school year in the fall?
Costume bike rides.
Yeah, we could plan a bike ride. We could plan a ribbon cutting of the network or something.
Yeah, those are all great ideas.
I mean, any of those would be things that maybe the bike community could partner a little bit with the city on, to remind people about the training, remind people about the safety aspect, and get public awareness. Because this is vastly more streets that will look funny to drivers who might not be used to this at all,
Mm-hmm.
then,
And if they see something on,
yeah.
I'll point out though too, for the streets with bike lanes, particularly Florida and Kenge, I mean, we did go through, because there was on-street parking removal, all the residents along those streets were actually contacted individually, and through the traffic commission hearings or through council meetings, a lot of them had an opportunity to provide some public input, regarding the bike lanes. So, but I agree with you, it'd be nice to reach out more to the whole community. I think that's one thing that maybe got a little lost in the communications as far as the bike, lane communications for the parking removal was, this is a benefit to the whole community. It's not, anyone can use the bike lanes. It's not just for the kids going to school or the teachers. I mean, it benefits the whole community and will provide, a higher level of connectedness and more opportunities for bicyclists.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I have a question about the sections that are shared with car parking and
Mhm.
bike route. Is that parking permitted or restricted at all, or is it public parking?
It's public parking.
Okay.
I mean, I do think we have some limitations as far as how long a car can be parked in Urbana, citywide. There's a limitation on
I
how
think
long.
72 hours
Uh-huh.
if you leave a car in the
But
same
that would be the
spot.
only restriction.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. What month might this all be done again?
Our anticipation or what we're planning to do would be to do it over the summer. So
Mhm.
I would anticipate June, July, hopefully have everything wrapped up before August and school starts.
So maybe August, when school starts, would be the time to try something educational.
Across the Prairie is in August, the
Uh-huh.
end of August, so
And does it start or end in town
last year was at Crystal Lake Park.
at Crystal Lake?
So, and we had a family ride that went up Race and to Meadowbrook Park and back. So we could definitely look at having a route that took advantage of the new infrastructure.
That would be really cool.
And then try to bring it, do a little media thing on
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
that would
perhaps
be nicely timed.
The mayor and the UBA people could get the big scissors out and we could do a ribbon cutting or
Mhm.
something a little bit celebratory / press conference /
Mhm.
get the word out on the educational message.
And last year we had 10 people and families with kids and trailers, and so that was kind of a neat, real visible
Yeah,
parade of sorts.
that's cool. And would you be the contact person for the See You on the Prairie
Yeah.
side? Or okay.
Yeah, especially since I led the ride.
Okay, perfect.
You
Then
know,
we're talking to the right person
Yeah.
here. Okay, great. Okay, well, maybe Brad, if you can help mention that to Rebecca too. I know we have a
Sure.
few months and you got to worry about getting some of the construction details to happen in the meantime, but if we start the conversation now about planning a bit of an event outreach piece, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I agree. Good opportunity.
Okay, any other comments on this project? Okay, seeing none, let's see, I'm going to pull my agenda back up. And next we have a bunch of announcements. So yeah, first tell us about Bike to Work Day and what's going to happen here.
Well, first thing
In
Rebecca
May.
wanted me to point out was it's Bike Month.
Yeah.
It's not just a day celebration, it's actually a whole month now. And she did make me aware of the website, and she wanted me to point that out and encourage everybody to check out the website. She wanted to thank Champaign, Bikes for all their efforts. It's
Everyone
great.
is asked to register, right? Like if you're going to
Correct.
bike to one of the stations on that day, you get a free T-shirt, you even get a free apple or granola bar and something to drink.
I think you can actually register online just
Yeah.
by,
But
for
we
example,
want-
clicking that. So it's pretty quick and painless and easy. You can see you just have a little bit of information about that. So
Yeah, and it's totally free, but registration is important. So that we know how many T-shirts, how many people will be showing up at each bike station that morning.
yeah.
And if I can add,
Yeah.
as part of it turning into Bike Month this year, the registration form now includes Bike to School Day on May 8th for people to register their kids, and also Bike to Market Saturdays every Saturday in May. And we'll have a station at the market at the square, so people can get shirts there too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and the Bike to Work Day is May 1st, which you can see here on the calendar. And you've got your Bike to Market Saturdays and the Bike to School Day. So I encourage everybody to check out their website. It's just chocked full of information there.
Mhm. Great. I know there's also some training events coming up, maybe two different, a cycling savvy course and a
There's a traffic
skills 101.
101, which is scheduled for Saturday, May 4th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the CU Mass Transit District. So Cynthia Hoyle, Rebecca Bird, and Tim Marty, and Susan Joan are all certified instructors.
Mhm.
So I think the cost is $65 per person. Everyone obviously needs to bring a working bicycle, helmet, and lock. So,
Mhm.
and we'll get this. If anyone's interested, they can contact Cynthia Hoyle.
Mhm.
And I brought a couple extra flyers from that.
Oh,
Cynthia asked
perfect.
me to, so
Great.
There's also
feel free to take them.
There's also a bike rodeo at the Market of the Square on Saturday, May 18th. So you can do your ride or your Bike to Market Saturday and then participate in the bike rodeo on top of it. And that's through the CU Safe Routes to School. They're going to have helmet sales, helmet fitting, bicycle skill stations, and bicycle safety information. So, and this is organized by the Champaign-Urbana Safe Routes to School project. Once again, if you want any information on it, you can contact Cynthia Hoyle or Jane Sullivan.
Cool.
And then Rebecca wanted me or gave me a note that I'm supposed to remind people they're looking for volunteers for Bike to Work Day. So
Mhm.
if anyone on BPAC is interested or you know anyone that might be interested, please contact Rebecca Bird. I think typically here in Urbana we usually do 2 stations. So she'll need assistance for both. So if you can help with that. And she said the Bike to School Day on May 8th, so the Bike to Work Day they need volunteers for is on May 1st, but also on May 8th for the Bike to School Day that they need volunteers. They like to have a city representative at each of the schools to kind of participate in the ceremony and kind of lead the efforts with the school.
Mhm.
And she said there will be a bragging's right trophy competition between Champaign and Urbana on Bike to Work Day. So whatever community gets the higher percentage of employees or staff or whatever that bike to work that day will get a traveling trophy with their name on it for
That's
that
a
year.
great idea.
So
That-
hopefully we can beat Champaign.
That's
I
awesome.
probably shouldn't have said that on the air, right? What?
Is it per capita?
Well, I think it's a percentage, so it makes it fair, because obviously they have more staff people than we do, but it's based on the percentage of participation.
Hmm.
So
That could be.
even though we're
be tough.
smaller, we can still beat them.
I like that. I also got a message from the police chief today that there has been an effort to put in place this diversion program where if you get written up for a ticket, say for biking at night without a light on your bicycle, and you get a ticket for that in Champaign-Urbana or from the campus police, you can either pay the fine or pay a reduced fine and come to the bike safety class. And so far, 12 people signed up for that, for the class that is, I think, coming up on May 2nd. And then they're starting to fill the slots for the next class at the end of May. So they were really positively excited about good participation there among people who are getting tickets and choosing an educational opportunity to save on the ticket fee, which is just a total win-win situation. And the police chief was very excited about the numbers and the interest he was getting.
They may not be really excited students,
Right, but
but they were riding bikes.
they were riding
It's not
bikes
like they're-
and doing something unsafe, so it's a great time to educate. Any other announcements?
You might already all know about this, but next Tuesday, there's the Champaign County Greenways and Trails Plan public meeting and a joint meeting combined with the Illinois State Bike Transportation Plan. So I also have a couple flyers for that if anybody wants to take one, take a couple to hang them
Okay.
up.
Great.
But that's next Tuesday.
Great. Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, it's really important to come to those kind of things and just look at the plans and speak up and give comments. Incredibly helpful. So. Yeah, especially when it comes to IDOT plans. Yeah, they don't realize that we need sidewalks on overpasses or things like that. They're involved in big infrastructure that really matters. So, any other announcements? Okay. Then I think the only other one was the Orchard Downs Bike Rodeo. There was an email about this, though I don't know if it got sent to this list. On April 20th, there's another bike rodeo being organized at Orchard Downs, specifically for the kids and residents in that neighborhood. And I believe the Safe Route to Schools Project and Cynthia Hoyle are the key point people, and they're also looking for volunteers that day. So that looks like that's on the calendar here, actually on our screen. That's coming up Saturday the 20th, this Saturday. So they're still, I think, looking for people to pull that off, and hopefully, fingers crossed, to get a break in the weather this Saturday.
And if I can jump in on that one too, that one's a neat event because they're partnering with the bike project, so it'll have a little focus on maintenance as well, which I think is cool to
Cool.
combine the two.
That's great. Okay, well, it's going to be a busy month. Any other announcements? Okay, I know on the future topic list, we'll talk about the Broadway Avenue bike lanes at an upcoming meeting and get an update on those. And our next scheduled BPAC meeting would be June 18th. So that would be after Bike Month and after some of these festivities. But that would be Tuesday at 7 o'clock as regularly scheduled. Any final comments before we adjourn? Okay, well, thank you all. I know it was a slim turnout, but I appreciate everybody's feedback, thoughts, and make sure to grab some of these flyers before you go. Yeah, welcome, and maybe after the meeting adjourns, come up, say hello, and introduce yourself to Amelia, who it's wonderful to have her on board. She's from F&S and involved a lot in the campus transportation planning for PED and bike safety. So it's really great to have her as a contact and have her input on all this. So yeah, come up and say hello afterwards, and we welcome you aboard. Thanks for participating. Okay, with that, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.